Next, I'd like to welcome up Paul from Block ID. So Paul is in New York with us. He's here in Toronto. You're coming with us to Chicago. Is that correct? Yep. Excellent. You prepare to be offended. Paul is the closest thing I have to a groupie. I'm really excited. With that said,
thank you, Brent. Pleasure to be here this morning and talk about identity in the blockchain. The founding team of Block ID, the core, we were part of a founding team of a blockchain-based identity management company called Deadbolt. We were acquired last fall. It closed in December. We realized very early in the acquisition process that what the acquirer was going to use the technology for didn't meet the needs that we built the company for originally. So we created Block ID to move to a lower level to really put the individual in control of their identity and rights management and do that as an API platform. So anybody can use this and add identity and rights management to their application. As we all know, digital identity is broken. As of this morning when we started this meeting, there's about 600,000 records that have been compromised. That number is old, about a month old, so it's over 8 billion records since 2013. And because of those breaches, we've come to the realization that centralized control is not going to work. Forrester said, no single entity, including any government, can safeguard identity. I came through the border and the lady asked me a bunch of questions because I gave her my card, and anybody could have answered those questions. And yet she still let me come into the country of Canada. Little did she know. But the proposed identity future, and I've been talking about this for a couple of years and people didn't believe me, and Thomson Reuters, interestingly enough, last week in New York, we were in the Thomson Reuters offices, but they published this and said, you know, the old system was you have these identity providers, the new blockchain allows you to have decentralized and no identity providers, so the new model is, we're going to put identity providers on the outside ring and be the consensus. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense, because the individual doesn't control their own data. We think that's a bad model, and it's counter to what even Computer World has done what they call a definition of self-sovereign identity. It starts with the notion we're all makers of our own identity online and off, and it needs to mirror the way identity works in real life, right? So our model of self-sovereign identity is actually empowering the individual. The individual gets to decide what factors are used as part of their identity claim, their identity validation, and their authentication. So there's three things that we think a good system in blockchain identity management needs to have. First is individual control. That gives you as a user autonomy. Second is privacy. That gives you confidentiality. And then third is ubiquity. The company that acquired Deadbolt does an application that takes advantage of the secure domain in mobile devices. That's interesting, but when you put your sensitive information in a secure domain in one mobile device, if you try to sync that across mobile devices, you just exposed an opportunity for a problem with that identity. So we believe it needs to live outside an individual device. I should be able to pick up anybody's phone and validate my identity and do something important. The phone really is not a great factor. What you have and what you know as to the identity factors, those have what's called a 100% equal error rate. If I have it, it works. If you have it, it works. So we say it should be a dynamic model of view. This is how we talk about it mirroring the real world. So frictionless, zero knowledge, multi-factor authentication. In other words, what you do and who you trust and who trusts you is really more your identity than a few static claims that some identity provider might have, and which I found with my own bank was wrong. So there's three essential elements. You need to be able to assert your identity, and so our premise is that could be something very simple, easy to remember. It could be your mobile number, your email address. You pick it as an individual, and that's what you can assert your claim. You can always change and assert a different claim somewhere else, even if you want to be anonymous. Validation is then the ability to prove that claim, and that's that dynamic zero-knowledge, continuous authentication, or continuous validation we talk about. And then authentication, proving what I call the 18-inch problem, right? It doesn't matter what Rivets does with applications in the secure domain, it still has to make sure that it's me using that device. Otherwise, all that security goes for naught. So normally in my presentations, that background is continuously moving. So imagine that's moving. You have to use your imagination this morning. I'm making you work before lunch. Anyway, so all these factors about us are changing constantly. And we encourage people as they create their Block ID to select things that do change regularly. So maybe it's your LinkedIn account, maybe it's an email account. And those things validate you because you interact with someone, they interact with you, that validates your identity, just like in the real world. I've met some people here this morning, I don't really know them that well. I met some people at a conference a few months ago. We've established a relationship, so there's more trust there than the people I met this morning. No offense. We started the company around the idea that we had some interesting ideas and interesting companies that were looking for a solution, not just for identity, for rights management. Music and entertainment is probably the easiest to understand. So a creator creates a media file, whether that be music or video. We can create a Block ID that's a security token that gets embedded inside that digital file. So it includes the identity of the creator or creators, the born on date we call it, the date and time stamp, as well as a digital fingerprint of that media file. That's all embedded and machine readable. So let's say I download a track for $1 for personal use. Now I use it on my YouTube video. I get, and the commercial use was $100. It was $100. I get a bill for $99 because my ID and the rights I purchased are also embedded in that track. That also applies over to forensic evidence. Our partner company there does a forensic evidence collection platform. They also have mobile apps. They've been telling their customer base they're going to add blockchain, and they had no idea how to do that. So they came to us and said, help us do this. So every piece of evidence, every interaction with that evidence, every transfer gets very strongly authenticated using someone's voice signature, actually. And then in supply chain management, a platform that does supply chain management for the automotive industry, really, they already uniquely mark everything and can track it, but they don't have a way to put that in a third-party trusted ledger, and that's what we're being used for. And then in healthcare, it's kind of a supply chain management company for healthcare equipment. They track within a health system all the different equipment, and then not just that it's in inventory and that they bought it, but also what's the utilization of that equipment. And then beyond that, the FDA recalls and software updates, all of that can be tracked. So did they get the recall? When did they get that recall? Did they intervene? Who was the person who actually did that intervention, whether it was replace the transducer, update the software, whatever. All that gets recorded in the blockchain and is auditable. So we've put together a team. 3 of us, like I said, we're part of Cyber Deadbolt. We have quite a few opportunities in the music industry that are interesting. Just as a test, a use case, bottom right corner, that's Matthew Zawicki. He had a platinum record at 24, pop, drop, and lock. He created all the beats. He was the recording engineer. He did the mastering. And I asked him, what did you make on that tune? He said, so far, 18 cents. It's a platinum record. He made 18 cents. I told him I'm 12 cents ahead of him because I had a song in the 70s that I actually self-published, so I actually got all the royalties. So that tells you how much I sold my song. But his was millions of sales. So a great team with industry connections. And we're following a customer-first approach, working with customers to find out what they need. So our technology stack is cloud-based scalable API platform. We use machine learning and deep learning to build the model of the individual. And then we use applied artificial intelligence to help in that decision of validating that identity and doing this continuous authentication. We also have the media digital watermarking technology I was talking about. So our business model varies by market. That's my background. And you can contact me at blockid.cloud.
Excellent. Let's open it up to some questions. Oh yeah, round of applause, please. Any questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, well thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.
Sorry, did it?
Nope, never mind. We got one more. Dave, is it?
Yeah.
Thanks again.
blockchain related to defense or a military supply chain. And what popped into my head was an embedded IoT device for tracking. What was missing is a block ID type application. Are you a platform, or as a platform, do you have the ability to embed in particular IoT chips your supply chain management idea?
So we're an API platform. So the software, if it's intelligence at the edge, can ask for an ID. That ID could be for the device itself, or it could be for some transaction or interaction with that device. One of my co-founders has FutureWorks Group. They do supply chain management platform for meeting the US DoD requirement for individual marking in both machine and human readable form. Every part that goes into an aircraft or weapon system. So they've been doing that, and they have lifecycle management now. Every time an aircraft lands, it's scanned. So yes, we can enable that with our API. So all of their transactions now are not only in their system, but they're also in the blockchain. So think of us as the ledger capability that you can add to all kinds of applications like that. And that's what's attractive about the automotive industry. It's no longer good enough to track that package of seats, that kit of seats went into that Dodge Caravan, but who were the sub-manufacturers and what were those subparts, and tracking all of that through the lifecycle management. So now instead of recalling all 1985 vans, you would only recall those that had the defective part. It was part of the component, it was part of the kit, it was part of the seat package that got put in certain vans. The recall is very specific then. And that's the opportunity for supply chain to get to a granular level and do real lifecycle management.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, thanks again, Paul.
Thank you.